Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, you took your first test of the year the other day. I am recording this on, what's today's date? This is Tuesday the 25th. So, you haven't taken your test yet. I don't know how the class did. If there's reason for concern, I'll be sure to address it in some videos that I record early next week. But I'm going to be away this weekend, so I really won't have a chance to look much at it. Okay. This is a really important next 3 to 4 weeks that we're going to go over. When you look back, assuming you follow a career in education and you look back on it, what you learn in this week has the potential to make the family, personal, spiritual, and financial sides of your future all come together in a very productive way. And to disregard it puts all those things at risk. And it's not just for education. We're going to tailor it toward education, but it really does apply to pretty much any career that you want to get. Now, I made up my mind that I was going to teach when I was about 16 years old. When I was a young boy, I got hit by a car and my right knee got destroyed. I spent a lot of time in Lenox Hill Hospital. I would go in at one point. Well, when I got hit the first time, I was hit when I was on Long Island. I got hit on the very last day of school in first or second grade, I think second grade. And the growth plate in my knee was destroyed, and a really bad doctor by the name of O'Malley, he just didn't get the job done, and my knee grew progressively worse over the next 3 or 4 years. And a really great doctor in New York City heard about it, and he brought me in. So my right leg was almost 3 5/8 inches shorter than my left leg, and it was bent crooked to the side. And he was a great doctor. His name was Dr. Jeffrey Minkoff. He was the Rangers, Knicks, Nets, Islanders, Jets, everybody's team doctor. He was Pele's personal doctor. He did surgery on Joe Namath. He was one of the very brightest of the best in New York City. And he fixed my leg. He did it pro bono, which means he did me as a charity case, which is the truth. I was a young boy. I was a very angry child. I got caught up in lying a lot and stealing a lot and just being a rotten, menacing kid until I had a few things happen in my life that really turned my life around and changed it. What the surgeries involved was cutting out my right hip and putting it in my knee to stimulate the growth because the growth plate had been destroyed, and then breaking my left leg repeatedly until such time as my two legs were pretty much the same length, which they are now. But it did cost me like 3 inches in height, 4 inches in height, and I'm like 6'1", so I would have been a big boy, you know. My son's about 6'5", so height runs in the family for sure. I have an uncle who's 6'8", robbed me of that. Perhaps a future sports career, but I'd rather have been a teacher, and I mean that. Things for me were not good in my youth until I was in about 10th grade. Then they started to change. Things got better. My legs pretty much evened out lengthwise, and all the social and just real hard times associated with being away from home, being in Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, being real isolated and staring out a godforsaken window at a brick wall. I started to overcome those things, and I started to think about my future. And I used to like to argue with my parents all the time. I had stopped stealing by this point in time. I had had a very profound spiritual experience. I didn't steal. Nobody's perfect about lying, but maybe other than the number of chocolate chip cookies I ate, or if I hit the cake pretty hard that my mom was saving for herself. Other than that, I was pretty good about not lying anymore. And a lot of really good things started to happen. And then because of all the knee surgeries, and this is why I bring it up, I really couldn't play sports until about 10th grade. So in about 8th grade, I actually started coaching Little League. And that kind of directed my path toward becoming a teacher. And when I guess I was 16. I think it was near the end of my junior year of high school. And our team was playing in this big tournament. And when we were playing in the tournament, I practiced with this kid who lived around the corner from me, this kid named Craig Flynn. He was like a little brother to me. I didn't have any brothers. And we practiced this one play over and over and over again. He was a second baseman. It was a backhand ball up the middle, planting, pivoting, firing to first, get the out. And he was pretty young for his age. It was the Little League, which goes up to age 12. And he was only 10 years old at the time, and he made the All-Star team. And we just practiced that play all the time. And then he did it to win the playoff game. And we were like champions of our little bracket. And the look he shot me when everybody was done celebrating, it was a really satisfying look. It meant a lot to me. And I knew that I wanted to teach. So from that point forward, my path was kind of directed. And I got into a teaching career. And fortunately, I had some really wise people guide me along my way. And I made some mistakes along the way, but I hit a home run on certain things. Right before my teaching career started, as you know, I live in a town called Callicoon, New York. It's in the Catskill Mountains. We are so blessed to have riverfront property on the Delaware River. My in-laws, my father-in-law's passed away, but my mother-in-law's still alive, and they're a little over a mile up the road, as well as much of my wife's family. And my wife grew up mostly on Long Island, but this was always a summer home for her. But so they knew the area, and we would come up here a lot, and I'd fish up here because it's great fishing. And I would always cut the lawn for your in-laws, man. If you're a guy and you have a serious relationship going on with your girl, then you got to make sure you do housework for the family. Definitely want to do that to show them that you're a family-oriented kind of guy. So I would do the work, and they have this sloping hill, and I would cut that, and I'd cut the lawn, and it gets pretty warm up here in the summertime. And I would daydream, and I would look for two things. First, I would look for snakes in the grass and try to run them over because I hate snakes. And the second thing that I would do is daydream about what it would be like to own a house up here one day. And now I do. And a lot of people tell you teachers don't make a lot of money. And to some extent, that's kind of true. But teachers do get a really good retirement. And I'm here to tell you all about money, the mathematical ends of money, how to handle money, and how you can best use money-related things to make your career better for the students, for their families, which is, you might think your first responsibility is to your school district, but I never looked at it that way. I looked at it as I had much, much higher authorities that I was responsible to. And if you meet their standards, I assure you the school district's standards won't be a problem. You how to really make a life for yourself where you make a huge impact on a bunch of young men and women, children, and at the same time you forge a fantastic future for yourself, which is part of the package. Nobody says you have to live at the poverty line. Knowing how to handle money and impressing that upon your students, and then how that allows you in turn to live your life in such a way that you can devote more time and energy to your students and making you a more effective teacher and being a bigger impact on their life is a really good thing. So this is really important stuff. Now, along the lines of what am I ever going to use this for? This you will use. That's a promise. We really do have a nice place, and it's a home that my wife and I built. Put our dreams together. We both love dogs, but my wife particularly loves to train them and show them. There's the house we built. We're in the landscaping phase now. We're working on it. We're getting there. But it really is a dream come true. And we afforded it through a career of teaching, and able to live in a place where we really do love to live with the kind of lifestyle we love to live and catch the kind of fish I like to catch. That's a nice big brown trout. So we're going to talk to you a little bit more about that throughout the day today. All about making your dreams come true. That's, being able to afford a trip to a nice place to catch really nice fish. Those kind of things are going. But there's also certain realities that we have to deal with, and we need to accomplish stuff in the here and the now to make that happen. You can daydream about all these things in the world, but if you don't pass the praxis, you don't make the dreams come true. If you don't learn the material in the course, if you don't learn how to go about your business, these dreams don't come true. So, as always, some praxis prep, some review material so that we constantly spiral back and come back to the ideas that we need our students to learn. And in this case, my students are you. And we will teach you all about how to do that as a teacher. It's really, really, really important skill. And then today's classwork contemplations, which are simple and compound interest. We're not going to fully explore compound, but we're going to introduce it. So let's start with the praxis prep. And we're going to talk a little Pythagorean theorem, a little probability, a little solving equations. And I've been doing some research on this praxis stuff, and this test doesn't look so bad. So I think if you can learn how to master these kind of questions I'm coming at with you, I do believe you're going to make it through this test and good things are going to happen. In last marking period, I had a number of students reach out to me and say, I was so scared of the praxis test and I was so afraid, and I had failed it before in some cases, and I did so really well. And I think it's important with the way you go about your business. And then I didn't even know about the test. Now I've learned about it, so it's going to help you some even more. First question, stop and start. Go ahead. Okay, so I made the statement the last time around that you should never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, miss an equation when you are given 4 choices, because you can always just check the choices if you don't know how to solve the equation. The correct answer to this one is choice D. Remember, you should never, ever miss a question that has an equation and its solutions. You just substitute them in. But let's just make sure you do know how to solve it so that you have the proper techniques. The only thing a little ugly about this, and uglier than the previous ones we did, is that there's fractions involved. If they let you use, I have to look up if they let you use a graphing calculator or scientific. Scientific has a fraction button. It's the ABC button. What exactly are the limits to what you can do on the praxis exam? Okay. With any equation here, you're going to subtract 1/6 from both sides. Got to get a common denominator here. 1/3 is 2/6, right? 2/6 minus 1/6 is 1/6. And then divide both sides by 2/3, and 1/6 divided by 2/3 is 1/4. If I find out that I have to teach you those manipulations so that you can do them in your head, I'll come back and hit some fraction stuff before the praxis rolls around. But I don't know that I need to do that. And the bottom line is, even if you're uncomfortable with fractions, you can always just check the choices. Now, up until now, I've always shown you that the wrong ones were wrong. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to show you that the right one is right. So 2/3 times 1/4. When you multiply fractions, you can do 2 times 1 is 2 and 3 times 4 is 12, and reduce 2 12s. Or you can just do it real simple here. 2 goes into 4 twice. So that's 1 over 3 times 2, which is 1/6. Plus 1/6 is 2/6, and 2/6 reduces to 1/3. Okay? All right. Next up. This was actually this was a praxis question. I got this off an old praxis test. So try this one. Nice chance to apply the Pythagorean theorem here. And that's as much of a hint as I'm going to give to you. Go ahead, stop and start. Okay, so there's my rectangle. There's my diagonal going across. I've got a diagonal of length 10. Got a height of 8. I know it doesn't look like it in the picture, but we'll go with it. And the missing side is n. So leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared, or a squared plus b squared is c squared. One leg is 8. Remember, the legs make up the right angle, and the hypotenuse is across from the right angle. So 8 squared plus n squared is 10 squared. 8 squared is 64. 10 squared is 100. Subtracting the 64, n squared is 36. N is the square root of 36, which is 6. Okay. But it didn't ask for just what n was. It said what's the perimeter. So 8 and 6, and then there's two other sides that are 8 and 6. Add them all up, you get 28 inches. Remember, perimeter means the outside added up. Okay. Next, probability. And remember, definition of probability is the probability of any event E is the number of ways to do that event E over the total number of possibilities. Stop and start. Okay, so if I do this with the stop and start, what I'll notice is that there are 13 hearts out of 52 possible cards. So that's the probability of getting a heart is 13, because there's 13 ways to do that over 52 possible cards altogether. And that reduces to a quarter. So there's my correct answer. I went from a circle to a hexagon. Ooh. Now, this is a little challenging probability question until you see it a couple times. Then you're like, I got this. This is easy. You got to make what we call a sample space. 2 dice are thrown simultaneously. What's the probability of getting a sum of 6 or 9? Go ahead. Okay, so using stop and start again. 2 dice, very important. Not 1 dice, 2 dice. And a sum of 6 or 9. So I make what is, this is a politically correct term, and I could get in trouble for this, but I'm going to tell you the term. I learned it in high school. My great math teacher, Mr. Braze, who would always say, oh, what did I ask him for? Mr. Braze used to call this the dice roller's idiot chart because it's so simple, any idiot can use it. So that's what I learned this as. The first die can be 1 through 6. The second die can be 1 through 6, and you want the sum, so you just add them up. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4, and so on. And that's how you generate all these numbers on the inside. For instance, here's a 4, here's a 6, and they meet at 10. Here's a 5, here's a 5, and they meet at 10. 5 and 6 meet at 11, and so on. So how many of these have a sum of 6 or 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of 36. 9 out of 36. Oh, it says 26. That's just a typo. 9 out of 36 is 1/4. Next, which of the following shows the numbers in ascending order? That means smallest to biggest. And what you need to do with that guy is you need to convert them all, some common way to compare them. And you could make them all percents. You could make them all fractions with a common denominator. But I think the easiest way to go is decimals. So if you haven't done it yet, make sure you get them all into decimals and then look for the correct order. Go ahead. Okay, so if I look just at the order they gave me for A, this 6 is really going on forever and ever, but I went a number of places and rounded off to 7. As you can tell, they're not in ascending order because you go from 0.68 to 0.67. That can't happen. For B, you go 67, good. 0.68, good. Oh, 68 can't drop to 66, 66, 7, and so on. Letter C, can't go 68 to 67. Letter D, 0.66667, and it really goes on forever and ever as 6s. Yes, that's smaller than 0.67, which is smaller than 0.68, which is smaller than 0.80. So D is going to be our correct answer. Sometimes students think that because the decimal keeps going and it's like more places, 6, 6, 6, 6, and so on, that it's actually bigger than 0.67. But no, they each have a 0.6 in the beginning. All 3 of the first terms do. But then you look at the next number, 6 is smaller than 7, so that's why it's smaller. In turn, 7 is smaller than 8, so that's why the 0.67 is smaller than 0.68. So the correct answer is D. All right, we'll get to review questions next.